Hey guys, so in this lecture we are going to cover the error, which is a little more on the error object. We saw that we passed error object to the catch block, but what an error object is, so you'll see that in detail in this lecture. So this is a continuation to the previous errors lecture. Now JavaScript has a built-in error object that provides error information when an error occurs. The error object provides two useful properties. One is the name and the message. We already discussed that it provides a name and a message. Let me just quickly type it, name and message. There are 6 different error name values that we have in JavaScript. So let's see what the first one is. The first one is an eval error, which basically means that an error occurred in the evaluation function, which means there was an evaluation error. Range error, which is very obvious, which says that it is out of range in case of numbers. So a number is out of range. That's a very common scenario when you will get this error. The next error is the reference error. What this says is that an illegal reference has occurred. You won't be put in jail, but there will be an error. So that's an illegal reference to something that you are using. The other is the syntax error. What syntax error does is it tells you that there was a problem in the syntax. Syntax incorrect. Then we have the type error. We already did a lot of data type conversions and everything. So that's why type is very important. So if there is a problem in the way we are handling the expressions and the types are not correct, it might give you a type error. And the last one we have is URI error. So basically you have an error in the encode URI method or a function of JavaScript. So let's quickly see each of these errors in detail and try to understand what these errors are with a particular example. So let's take eval error when there is a problem in the evaluation. Now the eval error, the problem is the newer versions of JavaScript does not throw eval error. In fact, it throws a syntax error. So it's kind of redundant, but it's still there for backward compatibility. So let's quickly go on to the range error. Now what is a range error? If it is out of range. So let's try to create an example. So if you remember, for a number, we had some precisions and the maximum and the minimum values that it can take. So a number can be a maximum of something and minimum of something. We already printed that max and the min value range of a number. Now what if the range, or were we using one of the methods in numbers and see if we can give precision outside that range. In that case, we can get an exception for out of range. So let's say number is equals to 1, which is very simple. Let's do a try. Inside the try, we will say number dot to precision. Precision says to how many digits the number has to be. And let's say we give 500, a very big number, which means it cannot achieve it. Now let's close the try block. Let's put the catch block. Let's have the error. And let's try to do a document dot, let's add a document here. So let's give p id equals range error, and let's close the p tag. Now let's use the same range error here. Document dot get element by id, and then let's just update the inner HTML with the error dot name. Now if you update this, the answer is range error. You see that? It already gave you the error. So now depending on the type of error, you could perform a particular action or print out a particular message. Very easy. So next example that we can see is a reference error. Let's create a p tag for that same thing. Let's say reference. And as they say, reference error, which means you are illegally referencing something. So for example, let's do a try catch. Let's copy the entire thing. Let's do this. Let's make a variable x, which is just a variable. Then let's try to do x is equals to y plus 1. Now we haven't defined y ever, so we can just update the y. and instead of reference error, and now this is automatically executing everything. So you can see reference error was received because I have referenced y, which I have not used anywhere or declared or initialized before I use it. So that was the reference error. Now what we want to see is syntax error. So let's try to execute the syntax error. Now how can we do that? Let's try to have a try and a catch block. Let me just clear the try and let's create another variable where we can have syntax error so that we know what we are printing. Let's copy this, let's update this. Now in this, let's try to do an eval, which is a JavaScript method that evaluates your JavaScript statement. So every statement that you type in JavaScript will be evaluated using the eval method. Now let's try to evaluate a very simple method, which is alert. And see, it ran the method. Let's turn this off, otherwise it'll keep running it. Let's say alert and let's say hello. So this should work completely fine. There should not be any exception. And let's say run, it will give you hello and it works and there's no error. But what if you are missing a quote? Let's say I'm missing a quote. In that case I run again, no error given, and it says syntax error. So that's how you can identify a syntax error, where you're missing something and you know what the type of error is. Now the other one that we have is type error. So the type error is thrown if you use a value that is outside the range of an expected value. So let's say I have a number. Let's use the same example where I have number 1. Let me copy this and let's paste it to type error. Now instead of doing number.precision, let's remove that. Let's create a p tag which says type error. Type error is here. Let's put it in here. Okay. Now we have a number as 1. Let's change this to number 1. Now I try to do a number dot to uppercase. And if you recollect, uppercase is a method which is available for string objects. Now if I do this and try to run it, it will give me a type error because I cannot execute to uppercase on a number. It has to be on a string, and that's when you get a type error. The next, which is the URI error. So URIs are basically just like URLs, but they are a format in which you can express a string. Now what happens is when you do a try and a catch, let's try to copy this syntax error out here to URI error. Let's update this to URI error. Let's copy another p tag here and make it URI error. Now we have the URI errors out here. Let's remove this and let's try to say decode URI and then pass in some percentage signs, because percentage signs cannot be decoded to a URI. In this scenario, if we run this, we'll get a URI error. So these are the 6 different type of errors that we have for the error object. Now error object also has some other fields, just like we have name and message. Different browsers may have different fields. Just for example, Mozilla has a file name, a line number, a column number, and maybe Microsoft, which is IE, has a description or a number. So these are the fields which are available, which are specific to a browser. They may not be applicable to all browsers. So I would recommend that you refrain from using them if they are specific to a browser. So that was all about errors. I'll see you in the next class.